Welcome to another episode of the Relationship Toolbox, a show about the skills we need to build healthy relationships with others. Today we're going to talk about hosting an event, a formal gathering, maybe with family or with friends, and how we can make that more meaningful. So Marsha, how do we do that?
Well, it's not just family and friends or work colleagues like we typically talk about. We run into pop-up events, public meetings, presentations, parties, celebrations. We go to conferences. We have weddings, funerals, family reunions, mixers, meetings, and even virtual gatherings. So we want to consider what the elements are that make these good experiences and maybe even great experiences.
Okay. I can relate to that in the sense of sometimes when I've gone to some type of event, I really wanted to get to know the people attending it a little bit better and to have some conversation sort of in depth, if I could, about some topic of mutual interest to us. And the event just didn't lend itself to do that.
Yeah.
So I kind of walked away saying, darn, I wish I'd had the opportunity to really get involved with that person and talk more with them.
Yeah, you could exchange pleasantries and just talk about the normal stuff like you've seen somebody a year ago and you talk about the same things at the same level and it's very light. Yeah, and it's fine, but sometimes you crave something a little bit more meaningful.
Right, definitely.
So,
as I mentioned, I kind of feel disappointed sometimes. I don't know if other people feel that or not, or they're happy, with those pleasantries. But I do feel that, not at every occasion, but definitely I want more.
right, I think we're craving more. So we might be missing out on an opportunity because we're just reaching for that default ritual, off-the-shelf kind of autopilot based on previous experiences that we've had, and we just kind of replicate them, which is fine. It's fine, but sometimes we want something that's a little bit better than just fine and that will serve the collective purpose with more meaning. And many of the concepts that we're going to be talking about today come from the research of Priya Parker, who is an internationally known facilitator and strategic advisor and author and podcaster, and she specializes in understanding group dynamics. And she suggests that maybe sometimes we are focusing so much on the what, the things, the stuff.
The logistics.
The logistics and the decorations and the tangible things, because we feel like that's what we can control, and we can't control the rest. And if we just set up the container, it will happen. And she suggests that you really need, the very first thing you need to do if you want to go deeper and you want to make a better connection, is to figure out the why. Why are we meeting? Are we mourning? Are we celebrating? Are we honoring? Are we marking a transition? Are we making a decision? Are we networking? Are we volunteering or learning, problem solving, welcoming somebody in, or saying goodbye? And depending on the reason, we're going to get a purpose. And she says, commit to a bold, sharp purpose. And this is the first step we should do, and this is the very step that many people skip.
Sort of a well-focused direction.
Yeah. And once you have that bold, brave purpose, the focused, specific focus, then all of the other decisions that you make about the venue, the decor, the guest list will fall into place because you can test it against that lens. And we should look at some categories. And while we're doing it, I want to mention that category is not a purpose, and that's something that we need to hold. I think we have a slide just kind of reinforcing that idea. A category is not a purpose.
So when we have a category, some of us just assume that is the purpose, when there's a big assumption under there, I should say.
Yeah.
when I'm thinking of categories, now using that, I think of all these different things that could be run in different ways. Family reunions, school reunions, graduation parties and retirement parties, wedding receptions, funeral wakes and town meetings, bridal showers and baby showers. I mean, the list could go on endlessly.
And a baby shower is actually a perfect example of something is being a category, but yet not a purpose. So, Tom, what has been your experience with baby showers?
So you ask me as a man, but
Yeah.
I think that I've had some experience with it just from family members, helping them to organize them, transporting them to them, and cleaning up after them some of them afterwards. But I think that the routine, at least that I'm aware of in baby showers, is that first all the attendees arrive, and they're usually female, and they're usually friends or perhaps family of the this is a baby shower, right, of the mother-to-be. And so they come with their presents that they have purchased online from the registry. So they come in and put those presents down on the table, and they have some chit-chat with each other about, haven't seen you in a long time, and how are the kids, and all this kind of stuff. And eventually it sort of evolves into sitting around the mother-to-be and getting the gifts ready. Usually to the right of the new mother is going to be her friend, who's going to take down notes of who has given her what.
For the thank yous.
For the thank yous,
right.
yes. And on the other side is another friend who's there to collect all the wrappings that are being discarded from that. And so that after that is done, the group sort of mills around. Maybe they'll make comments, wasn't that a wonderful shower? And didn't we do these different things? And then from there, it maybe we'll have a little bit of cake, and then people sort of mill around and then leave with a few thank yous, and that's it.
And that is one image and one template for a baby shower. And sometimes they're silly games. It depends on the generation and a lot of things. But you know, originally this was meant to help young parents or young parents-to-be kind of get ready. They may not have the income or the wealth at this point because they're young. They don't have the knowledge. And so it was to transfer the wealth and material and expertise to these young parents. And traditionally, it was the female, it was the mother-to-be who was entrusted and responsible for the child care. So it was usually reserved for young women or women, and that all of the focus was on them.
Sort of a very utilitarian purpose.
Yeah, yeah. And it was kind of a balance between like fear and confidence. And there were some rituals, symbolic silliness, and that alluded to the process.
So after becoming a little bit more familiar with Priya's work, I began in my mind to imagine using some of her suggestions into a more meaningful gathering to this routine description I just said that I had observed with a shower. So if that were to be the case, again, and we were to sort of insert some of this purpose that for a more meaningful get-together, the first step would be for, let's suppose in a hypothetical situation, the host is getting ready to do this shower, knows that the mother-to-be is very anxious about the childbirthing process. She's really...
There's a lot of reason to have
I guess so,
anxiety
yes.
about this process, yeah.
And so rather than just having the routine type of shower that we've talked about, she sets a theme for the shower, which is how I learned to deal with my anxiety. So this could be anxiety about birthing, or it could be about anything, where someone indicates this is how I
This is a strategy I use.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now the host then creates the guidelines for the interaction. And it might be something like this, that each participant is told before they come that this will take place and what their expectation is. And then the expectation or the rule of the activity will be that before the mother-to-be can open the gift of a guest, that guest must share a positive experience, either in childbirthing or overcoming anxiety, or perhaps even in noting some of the qualities that she knows in this mother-to-be that could help her at a time when she's experiencing
Or
anxiety.
times she remembers that she overcame a challenge,
Yes.
and how she
And
tapped into
helping
it.
her to reflect on that. So using that format, which is what I think Priya is trying to encourage us to do, I wonder what would be different for the attendees of a shower like that if they walked away with that type of experience. I can imagine the talk after the opening of the gifts being more like people coming up to each other and saying, I didn't know that about, I always thought of you as being able to handle anything. You know, and I liked what you said about this. That was such a neat idea. So they're walking away with a new experience, and the mother-to-be, hopefully, a lot of support.
And encouragement and positivity.
Yes.
And a network of people that she knows in a different way.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how I, in my mind, was sort of trying to apply Priya's ideas into something that I was somewhat familiar with.
I would note even perhaps a third version of that, again, showing that it's a category, not a purpose. But if now these days we are expecting fathers to take more of a role in parenting. And so perhaps in that expanded role, the father-to-be, the expectant father would be included. The couple may not be young. It may not be about needing things as much as they need resources. They may not live close to family, and so they're looking for like pseudo-grandparents to step in that might be neighbors. They might need daycare names and pediatricians and babysitters, and that could be kind of the theme of the baby shower in this case, in addition to that. Or people could come and say, these are some of my childhood memories that I really would like to replicate in my kids, or these are some recipes that I've used with my kids that were kid-friendly that help them eat. And so it would be more that could be the theme of a different version of this category.
It's an excellent opportunity, I think, to introduce humor, too.
Yeah.
If people can relate humorous experiences that they've had, which can ease some of that tension sometimes and provide a lot of fun for the people attending.
But here's an example of a category which you could personalize according to the people that the gathering is serving. So we've got other categories that we could look at as well.
Okay, if we were to look at the category of perhaps
Like a wedding.
Like a wedding,
yeah.
yes.
Those are varied.
But again, in doing that in a wedding, I think we can still apply the same principles that Priya talks about to a wedding reception.
Yeah, you could be, it could be not only the union of this couple, but also a tribute to a multi-generational tradition of a family. It could also be inviting an informal group that maybe introduced the couple and then has been with them right along during their dating time. And or it could be that you have two very disparate families, maybe of different nationalities, languages, religions, cultures, and you are trying to respectfully recognize the value in both of those things and fuse that. And those would be three really different experiences. So again, it's a category that when we say, what is the purpose of this gathering, then we're going to tweak it a little bit.
Priya indicates in what she does, she said you're aiming to create sort of a temporary alternative world, that it's an intentional interruption of the routine that invites people to shift the way they're spending time together.
Yeah, and the host has a couple of responsibilities as well. And she mentions that there are primarily three. You need to protect your guests, protect them from one another, because if you just leave it to chance, sometimes things don't go well depending on who you're partnered with. It could be just about self-promotion and transactional, or some very strong, outgoing person can hijack the whole conversation and experience. You also want to make sure that they're feeling comfortable and they're exposed to foods that are compatible with their diet and tradition. Want to make sure that any topics that would come in wouldn't offend, or allergies. You want to protect them from boredom. You want to protect them from distractions that would kind of pull them out of this experience, and make rules maybe about technology, phone policies perhaps. You want to protect them from confusion. You want to make sure they have enough understanding to know how they're supposed to behave in this setting. And it's basically about connecting for a group experience, and the group experience should be better than any one particular individual's right or ability to hijack it.
So this is sort of what I'm getting from this is sort of a contrast in what we normally think the role of the host would be, the logistics that we talked about, making sure they have chairs here, everybody has glasses.
Everybody has water.
Right, what's the tablecloth going to be like? But leaving the actual interaction of those guests to chance.
Right.
Well, they'll work that out for themselves.
I'm kind of setting the container, and then what happens will be okay.
Right.
And it can be, but it can just provide a vacuum as well for other things to play out.
And misses opportunities.
Yeah. And you want to equalize your guests as well. You want to make sure that everybody feels like they belong, and kind of counterbalance any power imbalances and introduce them. Sometimes if I haven't seen somebody for a long time in between like gatherings, I forget their name, so as a host, I would want to make sure that, everybody knows, don't assume, and sometimes I appreciate a generous introduction where it's not just the person's name, but something like, oh, they're a great neighbor and they grow sunflowers, or just more about the person.
I remembered also that some people listening to this might think, oh my gosh, you're talking about all these things, that's way too complicated for me. Let me just do this and I'm fine with that. But Priya brings out a point that I think we could emphasize, and that this is not rocket science that we're talking about. A lot of this comes from just the ability of the host to observe what's going on. Are people interacting with each other? What do you hear them talking about? Are there some being left out? Are there some looking uncomfortable? So good observational skills by the host can help to facilitate that.
And you don't want to just be chill, because sometimes you think, I'm just going to be chill and let everybody
let it happen
and be, but it's better to be a generous authority and kind of make sure that you are directing things in a way to make it successful, and so that your guests are protected, equalized, and you can connect.
Can you talk more about, too, that word authority sometimes comes across as someone who's imposing.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what you're meaning at all.
No, just like I'm taking gentle charge of the flow. And
facilitating things and noticing things.
All of those things that you were talking about with the tablecloth and the food and the candles are still important, but they shouldn't be the only thing that you're looking at if you're looking for this deeper connection. And maybe not for every occasion are you looking for that.
Right. Some occasions may not call for this. And other times people may get together with their friends and feel we don't need anything like that. We have so much fun doing what we're doing.
Right.
Well, then you keep doing that. That's fine.
Yeah, and it could be, you're getting together to play cards, or you're watching a movie, and there is something else that is organizing and arranging your time together. But for the lack of that, you might want to think about these other things. And there's kind of a recipe of things that need to be included in this. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. I mean, most of the time, I think from what I understand from Priya's writings is that the first thing is what you mentioned, you really need to determine a theme for what you're doing.
Yeah. A purpose.
A purpose,
and a
yeah.
theme.
What is it that you're trying to accomplish by these people coming together? And you think, well, that's obvious. It's a baby shower. Well, no, it's not so obvious because it can go many different ways. The second thing is that second step is the selection of people coming there. That it doesn't necessarily people who are related or friends and so forth. It can also be people who are quite capable of facilitating whatever theme you want to occur during that event.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you have enough people who can carry that theme out.
And amplify the activity that's serving.
That's right. And then you want to make sure that your guests are fully aware and buy into the theme that you're working with.
You might even want to prime them when you invite them, whether it's by email or by mail or talking to them, and explain whatever contributions you're expecting of them. And we usually think of contributions like, what are you going to bring, dessert or salad? But it could be like, I'd like you to tell a story, or I'd like you to offer a toast, or I'd like there to be some kind of gratitude or something personal, and you don't want that to hit them on the fly. So,
well, when you're inviting people, you think of people who tells humorous stories and does it very well, and who does a nice toast, who can really articulate things.
But even the people who don't, if they, with some notice, they can think about it, and you want to have that contribution too.
Exactly.
And it's really when the invitation is extended that the party begins, or the gathering begins, because people are preparing for it then.
Right.
You think, well, it starts at 1 minute after 7 if that's when you told guests to arrive, but it really starts before then.
Right. And there's an anticipatory sense of, as you mentioned, what we're going to be doing and reflecting on that. So if I'm reflecting on that theme before I even get there, which is some self-awareness. It also is, how might I contribute to this? So it's not left to chance. It's more something that you've thought about ahead of time, which makes it more precise, even more meaningful when you're actually in the event.
So then we've got some kind of guidelines or pop-up rules for this event, this temporary alternative world.
Right, that's important so people know what to expect.
Right. And we talk about etiquette sometimes, and pop-up rules for this event are a little bit different than etiquette, because etiquette's tricky these days, because we got out of the practice of gathering during 4 years of COVID, and we also evolve as a society, and not everybody has the same expectations about how to be together. There are different generational expectations. There are expectations about technology or not technology, and just how you're going to be present. And so it's kind of fun to be explicit about what those are going to be. Like, we're going to have the first hour phones free. So please step out of the room if you need to use the phone during dinner.
Going back to that example of the baby shower, I think you mentioned that it's becoming not common, but more common for men to be invited to this thing, to participate.
Their parents
even
too.
Parents of them to come in. So you now have people coming in who are not in the traditional outline of things, saying, well, what am I supposed to do? What is my role in this event? When that is made more explicit through the theme, they can say, oh, I know what I'm here to contribute.
Right. And then nobody's offended or disappointed about behavior either. Like, because I think people have expectations from their own experiences, and they put that on other people, and they may not have the same expectations. And then, of course, we've got the stuff, that comes last. Notice in this slide here, the purpose and the theme and the guests and the rules and the guidelines, and then you talk about what are we going to eat and how will we move from one room to another for dessert, or how will this flow and what will it look like.
You
comes
can return
next.
to the theme as people leave too as
Yeah.
well. You know, thank you for your thoughts on this particular subject of anxiety. I never thought of that way, or that's going to be
Right.
helpful. So you're leaving with a complete picture of or experience from beginning to end of something that is more meaningful perhaps than just the usual routine.
Yeah. So let's just think about another category to apply these steps to. And how about Thanksgiving? We can all think about what Thanksgiving dinner or celebration means to us. And yours may be different than mine, but we kind of have an expectation. But here's an example that this is a category. If we're really going to be looking for a deeper meaning, we're going to ask, what is the purpose of this year's Thanksgiving celebration and this particular group of people in this time? And that may be different than last year or the year before. It may not, and you can, in which case you can just reach for the default from the shelf and do the ritual. But there might be something different.
And that theme that you come up with for a Thanksgiving dinner, if you do that, can help to sort of control if you have some particular relative who tends to dominate the conversation or just brings in things that people are bored with, old stories and so forth, that the theme begins to generate a new direction for this gathering to take place in.
To reshape it.
Yeah.
Perhaps this year, we just want to gather this group of people, whoever they are, and have civil dialogue, which is harder and harder to have. So maybe as a host, I am going to say, I want people to come with stories. First person stories, maybe about a time when I changed my mind about something, which would give us, or I want everybody to come with a story of gratitude. So that takes it away from the propensity of like getting into the weeds about controversial things and focuses it so everybody can have this experience together, enjoy being together, learn something about each other, be meaningful, and kind of pull it away from the tendency that it might have in the vacuum of just coming together.
Are people fearing, should I bring up this topic or that topic? You know, is someone going to be offended if I mention this? Or I heard this about this other relative, can I mention that?
Right.
All these things that otherwise can really tie up that sense of closeness, it just won't happen.
And here's a category, but depending on what's happening at this, maybe somebody's brand new, somebody's married in, you may want to like bring them in. Maybe somebody is in decline and it may be their last holiday and you want to honor that. Maybe it's just about a rival football game and so you focus on that. But it's important to move this dinner, this event, from a category to what its purpose is. And sometimes though, the things that hold together a gathering are seemingly invisible. But with a little bit of forethought, just like we talk about when you are going to have a conversation with somebody, a little bit of preparation, a little bit of anticipation and planning can make a much better experience. And we're going to extend this theme and perhaps talk about virtual activities and how you connect and maintain those relationships in a virtual realm. And we hope that you will join us again on the next Relationship Toolbox.